Good morning and welcome back. Sadly, we have had another school shooting, and honestly, this shouldn't surprise anyone at this point. This is becoming very common. And according to PBS News Hour, 1 in 5 students now is suffering from some type of mental illness. These kids not only are having more exasperated anxiety than is normally associated with being in a public school, but they have trouble focusing, and honestly, depending on the mental illness, a lot of these kids are having trouble distinguishing reality from fantasy. Of course, I speak out for RAD, but that can go for a narcissist or a psychopath, and even bipolar. Actually, those suffering from bipolar disorder actually have suffered psychosis and at some point in time, struggling with imagining, either seeing or hearing things that aren't there, imagining things that are not true. Gun control is not the issue. I've said this before, and I know a lot of people have said this. It's not a matter of gun control. It's a matter of mental illness. Something has to be done in our school system. Just speaking from our experience here with my stepdaughter, our RAD child, the school here in our town would not allow her on the property. She was not allowed to step foot in the building. They were great at offering alternative ways for her to get her degree. Before that, she had been in a private residential treatment center for 2 years, and they had school there. So she had not been in a public school for 3 years. 2 of those years, she didn't attend school because she had essentially dropped out. She was homeschooled here through the high school, but wouldn't do the work. And that was for about a year here. Before that, she had been with her birth mom, and birth mom didn't even bother enrolling her in school. So she was 2 years behind. This is a big issue as well. Being 2 years behind, a school will actually put you in when you do come back, if you do come back to the school will put you in an age-appropriate grade. They don't look at the fact that you dropped out or don't have specific years of passing or failing a grade. She was put directly into 2 years ahead that she had skipped, basically. Put extra pressure on a child with struggling with mental illness. There's cliques in school. Everyone knows there's cliques in school, but it's becoming different than when we were in school. Children are encouraged to call CPS on their parents. They're encouraged to feel entitled. This encouragement to a mentally ill child is the wrong thing to do. These are things that therapists teach RAD parents. Why aren't our teachers being told this? In 2014, the federal government announced that it had $48 million in new grants set aside for supporting teachers in schools in recognizing and responding to mental health issues. Still, many of those students with mental health problems continue to go unidentified and untreated. This isn't surprising. These are the kids who are getting guns and going to the schools. Anyone could figure this out. It's too big of a problem. They don't want to do anything about it because it's too big of a problem at this point. Speaking for specifically the reactive attachment disorder, these kids hide that disorder. They hide their symptoms. They pretend to be normal. They hide it from the rest of the world. Usually the parents or close family members are the only ones who see the symptoms. So if they're hiding it, why aren't these teachers with that $48 million being taught? If this child has multiple doctors saying that they have these disorders, and RAD is one of them, why aren't they being taught? This child is probably very manipulative and very secretive and very good at acting. Not only are these kids slipping through the cracks, as I've said before, as many people have said before, but these kids are also, in a sense, their disorder is being made worse by people denying it. There's people who say, oh, they're fine. They act fine to me. They act fine when they're around me. And usually after people have been around these children in a little bit closer setting, they start recognizing, okay, there's something not right. These children with feeling pressured, being put ahead in grades, not wanting to go to school. I know my daughter did not want to go to school. She did not want to go to public school. And she denies even having the disorder. However, she even tells people that her therapist even said she didn't have it. Well, and we sure did spend a lot of money and a lot of time in different therapy offices for nothing. No therapist that she had ever seen ever said she didn't have it. I even have reports from the residential treatment center she was in for 2 years, and they compared her to Ted Bundy. The woman wrote out a report when we brought her back home. The woman sent us a very detailed report to send with us for future doctors, and said she was very thorough and made it very clear this child has some very serious issues. And luckily, all of the other doctors and the school staff and mental health professionals and now the police department have those reports that they can read for themselves. So I guess my point is, not all of these teachers are going to get on the computer and look up each individual child that comes through their office or their classroom. The more they try to say, oh, this kid's fine, they'll grow out of it, the bigger the problem gets. These kids are not getting help. They're suffering, and they're taking actions in their own hands in the only way that they know how. And that's what they see in movies and video games. It's violence. So they get guns and take the matters into their own hands, and a lot of innocent people die. Something needs to be done about school shootings. And it's not a matter of gun control, it's a matter of mental health awareness. If PBS News Hour is recognizing 1 in 5 kids in public schools has a mental disorder, how serious are those mental disorders? I know for us, like I said, the school here in our town would not let our daughter on the property. They were taking precautions given her history, her long history with multiple different doctors, multiple different therapists who didn't even know each other. This school took precautions to keep the teachers and the other students safe. The reason I'm talking about the schools and the school here in our town, it's only 20 minutes away from where she lives now, and she's in public school. And she babysits. And no one is being informed about her mental illness. No one is taking precautions because they don't know. That is where the problem lies. These kids are slipping through the cracks, and that's what I mean by slipping through the cracks. If this school wouldn't let her on the property for safety reasons because she had detailed fantasies about wanting to murder a toddler, a very detailed fantasies that she talked to different therapists about, had toddlers chosen that she wanted to murder. And there was no discretion on who she would make false allegations against. She had made false allegations against other kids in church, claiming that they had beat her or slapped her or did something to her. And also the fact that she has no boundaries. When I say that, I mean sexually. She has no boundaries. She was active with her mother's 38-year-old boyfriend when she was 14 as a means of getting even with her mother, her birth mother, and that was taken to court in a separate case. She likes to make false allegations, especially against men, of sexual abuse. During Christmas one year, my oldest daughter and her husband were here, and we hold hands and pray over our food, and we all held hands and prayed. Well, my stepdaughter, the one with Rad, thought that her sister's husband, a fiance husband, was interested in her because he held her hand, and didn't recognize everyone was holding hands to pray over our food. But in her mind, he was interested in her. So my point there is, these male teachers are at high risk of being accused of sexual abuse. Oftentimes in middle school or high school, the high school students are encouraged to work with preschool or kindergarten students. That is putting those innocent children at risk of her. But I remember in church her expressing extreme interest and talking about it, very giddy, happy, really liked a boy in church. I think she was 13 or 14 at that time, and he was 7. And there was an issue at a treatment center. The woman who ran the place had contacted us and let us know that our daughter was on tighter restrictions because she was trying to lure a much younger boy behind a building alone with her. These are things that the schools need to know. These are things that the schools need to be taking precautions for the safety of the other students. Take time to look it up for yourself, how big the issue of mental illness is in our public schools. That is the problem with the school shootings, not gun control. Okay, so you might be wondering why I'm telling you these stories about our daughter. Well, it's because I want you to understand this is what kind of kids are going to public schools with your child. Because I want you to have a better understanding of RAD and what it looks like, and to know that these are the kids that are going to public schools with your children. This is just a little glimpse inside the mind of a child with RAD. We were lucky here in our town that this school took our doctor reports seriously. They took what we said seriously. Other schools, the school she's in now, 20 minutes from here, has not taken those things seriously. She is attending public school alongside with your children, maybe volunteering to help with those kindergartners, even animals. A lot of times they bring animals into school. This is a child who has killed pets. So I guess I want you to be aware. I want you to know what RAD looks like. I hope this video gives you something to think about. I hope that it's helpful in any way. So you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye.